Hello, everybody. My name's Shamash, and I'm going to be talking today about the value of kindness. I'm going through each of the different values. I've been given a list of values from, I think it's called Values UK. I'm going through each of the different values, and today I'm going into talking about kindness. Now, yesterday, the value was on love, and I talked about a particular meditation called the loving kindness meditation, which is probably, I'm thinking how old it is. Certainly thousands of years old, probably 2 to 3 thousand years old, I'm guessing. Ancient practice. And it shows that the practice of kindness and loving kindness is something that's wired within us. It's really, really important of part of what makes a human being and very important for our health and well-being. Just thinking about kindness and in terms of the impact it's had on our culture, I've noticed that it's become more and more commonplace for people to talk about kindness, and I've noticed a lot more books about kindness. When I first started working in the field of mindfulness, sharing mindfulness, I guess professionally, writing books about it and teaching it, there weren't even that many books on mindfulness, actually, literally just a small handful of books. And that grew and grew and grew, became more of a popular movement and more interest in it, and now probably millions of people practice mindfulness in some form or another. But then in the last few years, I started to notice a growth in the movement into kindness. I first noticed the interest in self compassion and compassion, and that's something that's been going for a while. And the word kindness started popping up. I got interested in kindness in particular myself, just through my own personal experience of feeling quite worn out and tired, and then discovering the practice of what I call kindfulness, which is about a more kind and compassionate approach to meditation that I teach. And then I noticed it wasn't just part of meditation, but the importance of kindness and self kindness grew beyond the boundaries of meditation practice too. So it's become more and more of a movement. And interestingly, in the field of, I'm calling them these different fields or topics, I'm calling it the field of happiness or positive psychology. As they did more and more research, they found the real key to people's well being and happiness was to do with the relationships. And there's some very popular TED Talks where the conclusion is that, the better the quality of our relationships, the higher our level of well being and happiness. And there's one famous study where they found the positive impact of warm social relationships was more positive than the negative effects of smoking, even. So it can put many, many years onto your life. So, and then if you talk about relationships and the importance of relationships to well being, then if you want to have warm, positive social relationships, then kindness is almost like the glue that brings them together. So people realize this and they talk a lot about this. And there's quite a few people. I haven't read those particular books, but I've seen the book covers of people doing challenges in kindness, where they feel a bit lost, and they're not really sure what to do with their lives, or they're not feeling that great, or they're just frustrated with the world, and there seems to be so much negative news in the world. And so they do a challenge of a few months or sometimes a whole year, where they just practice doing an act of kindness every day, and it's transformative for them and it's transformative for the people that experience it too. So I'm going to share, first of all, a few different resources that you can look up and find out more about kindness and the practice of kindness. One that just pops into my mind immediately is one called 52 Lives. I was just reading about it before I did this live. And I think the founder is a lady called Jamie. She gave a talk at one of our conferences, actually, and she started a group, it may be on Facebook or somewhere else, where they try to help a different person every day of the year. So 52 lives, they transform the lives of 52 people. And it's just a large group of people that get together and they find out what someone's need is and they help them to fulfill that need. So that's one. The next one that comes up to mind is an organization called the Kindness Offensive. I was quite involved in that a few years ago. They've even got their own bus, and I think they might even have their own telephone box. They had a funbulance rather than an ambulance, and they do large acts of kindness, actually, sometimes, usually, quite often around Christmas and other times of the year. They do random acts of kindness, but they're not that random. They think about what people need and they try and fulfill that need. So kindness offensive is another one. Another wonderful one, which has been going for quite a few years now, is called Service Space. Go to servicespace.org, and they've started a wonderful website called karunavirus.org. Now, in Sanskrit, the word karuna, Karuna, means compassion. And so, what they're doing is gathering stories of positivity that are happening around this outbreak we have at the moment, this pandemic, and sharing the positive stories because quite often the news only shares the negative news quite often, but there's so many positive things that are also happening. So they're sharing that and the different acts of kindness. They've got loads of virus. It's almost like a platform for all sorts of different practices and all sorts of different platforms for spreading quite often kindness and meditation. So you go to servicespace.org, that's the hub where you can find all these other things happening. Smile cards is another one that they do, which is great. And they have these meditation circles around the world called Awaken Circles. Um, then I read an article about kindness. When I typed in kindness stories on Google, a website called Positive News came up. I think the website might be positive.news. So you could just Google Positive News. And they've been going for quite a few years too. I remember giving them a bit of, they were asking for a bit of funding a while back, so I got involved in that. And they seek out positive news, but it's written in a really good way, high quality journalism in a way, but it's not just about avoiding negative news as such, but it's about empowering you. So if they would write something about the climate issue, they wouldn't just write about the climate issue and just leave you just thinking, oh no, this, we're screwed. But they would actually finish the article with what simple actions that you could take that could make a difference. So it's an empowering pieces. So that's worth checking out. There's actually an organization called Random Acts of Kindness. Um, and they're quite a big movement, and they've got all sorts of different stories and suggestions for spreading acts of kindness. You can check that out. In the UK, I noticed there's a website called Kindness UK, quite simply Kindness UK, and they have resources and teach about kindness as well. And there's all sorts of books that you can get nowadays. You can kind of take your pick. It would be great. Let's see if anyone's shared any other resources on kindness. Nope. um, what else do we have? And then there's Action for Happiness. So they focus on happiness and positive psychology, but their findings are that doing acts of kindness, being kind to ourselves, practicing mindfulness and gratitude is really, really important. So they have a lot of speakers around that subject, and quite a few of their quotes lean towards that because that helps to improve relationships as well. So there's another one. So there's a few that come to mind immediately. Ah, yes, the project that I helped start, the Museum of Happiness, museumhappiness.org. They often lean towards the importance of kindness and self-care and self-kindness as well. So you have resources there too. Uh, what else? Yeah, so feel free to share any others that you can think of. Um, Kindness is really important. It starts with ourselves. So it's important to practice self-kindness and being friendly to ourselves. The reason I was just reflecting, why would we not be kind to ourselves? And we lean towards a more self-critical mindset because of where we're kind of evolved to have this fix-it mindset. But also we kind of are weighed down by the burden of I must get things right and I must be good enough, as if there's a central ego to ourselves that could have done the right thing and does the wrong thing. And I don't really believe in that, but I can talk about that in a future session. But yeah, self criticism isn't a nice thing, isn't helpful, isn't motivating. You can check out Christine Neff's work on self compassion if you want to know more about that. And so, to cultivate more kindness and compassion, we start with ourselves. It's not always easy, as I found with many of my clients. Take your time, start slowly, do tiny steps, small acts of kindness to yourself, and then build it up from there. You can't just suddenly be, if you're very self critical of yourself, you can't suddenly, immediately become kind to yourself, I don't think. much easier to start small steps, 1 minute, half a minute, one tiny action for yourself. Doing some journaling can really help. The loving kindness meditations I've talked about can really help. And um, people who are self-critical, many of us, sometimes we would do acts of kindness to others to make us feel good. So we need to watch out from that in the sense of constantly giving, giving, giving to the detriment of yourself. So just be mindful of that too. Do you lean towards always being kind to others and wearing yourself out? And if that's the case, then just doing more of that may not help. And it may be better to just take a little bit of a pause and a step back and see what acts of kindness you can do for yourself, even though it may not feel that good at the beginning. It's certainly not a selfish act because when we recharge ourselves, we're better able to help others. So just think of a mobile phone. Yeah, you need to charge it every day, or sometimes even more often, to make them work properly. And so, in the same way, we need to recharge ourselves, and self kindness is an important part of that. So, there's some thoughts that come to mind on kindness. It's such a big subject, I don't know where to start, to be honest. But there's loads of great websites and movements that focus on it, and books. And it starts with each one of us practicing a friendliness and a kindness towards ourselves and doing acts of kindness towards others. Thanks a lot for watching, and look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our next value. Not too sure what it is, but we'll find out tomorrow. Bye for now.